Canadiens head coach Martin St. Louis said this season is about his team learning how to win. They obviously have a lot more to learn after losing their last 4 games, including a 3-2 overtime loss to the Calgary Flames Tuesday night at the Bell Center. We'll talk about that and much more on this week's Hockey Inside Out show. Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Gazette's weekly Hockey Inside Out show. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette, and I'm joined by my regular partners here, former Canadiens teammates and Stanley Cup champions, Chris Nyland and Rick Green. Knuckles, it looks like the rebuilding Canadiens still have a lot to learn about winning. Why do they seem to be taking a step back this season when it comes to doing that?
Yeah, well, I think, again, we can beat a dead horse, but it's a defensive play for sure. If we look at the game last night, they had a good first period, 17 shots. They didn't capitalize on some really good opportunities. They had a couple power plays they didn't capitalize on. Could have put them in a different situation as far as that game went. Instead of a 1-goal game, could have been a 2-goal game. And then, again, I'm going to say it's team defense. And right now, even though Suzuki got, 13 points in 12 games or whatever it is, Nick doesn't seem to be on his game the way we saw him last year. And that line hasn't. When you looked at Slafkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield, the way they finished. Now, sure, Cole has scored his goals. He's chipping in and doing what he's supposed to be doing, scoring goals. But I think the two other guys they've been okay. Slafkovsky hasn't found it yet. He's going to have to. But, I look at this team, and last night, 2-1 game, less than 3 minutes left. You got to put that team away. And this is, again, and I hate to pick on this guy, but it was his mistake that really led to the goal, Jake Evans, because he's been a kind of a bright spot in this season, and he's played well. And last night, chasing that kid up the wall, and then he turns back and he turns the other way and covers the defenseman. You can't do that. And
that might be part of the system, though, right? That when they switch hybrid man-to-man, that might have been a confusion.
But right there, that's his man. When you're chasing the puck carrier and he cuts back and you just let him go, that's your man. You got to stay with him. He's your man. You've marked him. And he turns off and takes the defenseman. And so if there's a breakdown, you hope other guys are on their toes and they'll cover for you. Nick Suzuki is standing in the slot covering himself. He didn't react to anything. He actually, when the goal scorer got the puck, he was standing there, he looked at him, he kind of backed off to cover the point where Amir was going to the point. So it was just error after error on that goal, and it cost them the game. And we saw what happened in overtime. But those mistakes, when you're a struggling team, will kill you. And overall, I thought they played a better game. Okay, 5 shots in the second period, it's not a lot, but they were at least in the game.
3 shots in the third, too.
Yeah, but at least they were in the game, where they haven't been lately. We've seen them totally get blown out. At least they had an opportunity to win this one. They didn't. They played better than they have in the past. No moral victories, I get it, but I saw a better team game on the ice last night than I have in the previous games.
Yeah.
Rick, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Knox. I mean, I look at their last 2 games, obviously not getting the results they wanted, but they increased their intensity. They, seem to be much more determined and willing to pay the price, if you will, of trying to make the difference. And, you go back to the famous bag skate, as far as a wake-up call. I guess you can say that's kind of a moral victory from the standpoint that they got their attention. The point was being made that the effort and the overall play was not acceptable, which is a good thing. And Marty St. Louis has his hands full trying to push all the buttons to get these guys to perform. But As Nux mentioned earlier, the confusion on responsibility with and without the puck continues. And you look at the game, the Calgary game, and you see some of the breakdowns and the point blank chances that were given to Calgary, which continues to haunt them each and every night. And if it wasn't Montembeault that made some key saves at certain times in the game, they would be behind once again. So it's a tough stretch, obviously, right now to see what's going on, but they are battling better, trying to put a positive spin on some things. But until they get things ironed out as far as responsibilities go, I'm going to think that they're going to struggle to find ways to win hockey games.
Yeah, they don't get enough shots and they give up too many, right? 5 shots in the second period against Calgary, 3 in the third. They gave up 36 shots. They've now given up more than 30 shots in 8 of the 13 games, and they are behind their pace of the last couple of seasons. They're 4-7-2, last in the Atlantic Division again. That's 4 points behind where they were last season when they were 6-5-2, and 3 points behind where they were 2 seasons ago when they were 6-6-1. Knuckles, is there a reason at this point to, I don't know, panic's the right word, or be concerned about this rebuilding plan and where it's going?
Sure, you got to be concerned. But again, I think at what point, and I'm not sure when that point is coming, is it going to come at the trade deadline that Kent Hughes starts to trade off some of these assets he has that he's built up and try and get some grit on this team? And also, maybe, another center iceman that can really deliver the puck and deliver the goods. And that's difficult to do during the season because no teams want to give those guys up. I don't care who they're playing for. You just don't want to give up a real good centerman. So, they're in a tough situation. We're going to see what they're going to do. But usually this is year 3 of the 5-year plan. The fan base has been patient. I think the media has been patient. And now it's kind of wearing thin because we're not seeing this team take that jump we were hoping they were going to take this year. And if you revert back to, Reinbacher got hurt, the big guy got hurt. If you were relying on those 2 guys to take it to the next level, I don't think that's happening. Yeah, it would have been nice to see them in the lineup, Laine and maybe Reinbacher, but I don't think that's what was going to push them over the top. That's just that. I think that was just hope thinking that way. But again, this team needs grit and they need talent to win. You look every year it happens. When Vegas won, they're a big, strong team. They could pound, they could score goals. And then you look last year, Florida. It's always at the end. It's a team that's big, strong, tough, and talented. And the Habs are not there yet.
No, I think they really miss Sean Monahan, and I think they also miss like a Jonathan Kovacevic, that steady sort of influence on the blue line. Rick, what concerns you about this rebuild and where it's going now?
Well, I mean, let's face it. After 13 games, individually and then collectively, they've underachieved, and it's. If you disregard even the wins and losses, I think you have to dissect it in a different way and say, how are they playing? What are they doing in the all areas of winning hockey games? Are they doing things they should be doing defensively? Are they doing things offensively? Neutral zone. You start to break down and you analyze and say, geez, you know what? They're really struggling in each one of those areas, and that's not a good thing. And you got guys that, everybody was hoping would, bring it to the next level, and Doc and Newhook. I mean, these guys, 1 goal each. Yeah, it's recovery for, Doc, but man, oh man, we got to start to see some guys performing and, doing some things that they should be doing. And for whatever reason, they're not doing it, and they're not deep enough, with the group that they have, that they're going to find the solution with some guys not producing, and they're not producing, and the results are obvious. They just losing way too many games because of it.
Well, the defensive zone, like you're saying, but offensively, Caulfield's got 10 goals. Gallagher has been a great start, 5, Suzuki 4, and then it's Armia 2, Anderson 2, Newhook 2, Heineman 2, Dvorak 1, Doc 1, Slavkovsky 1. Slavkovsky hasn't been able to get back on that number 1 line since he was hurt. And the other thing that's sort of, I love Jake Evans. He's played great, but if he's your number 2 center, you're in trouble, right? And now you got Kirby Doc and Alex Newhook, who were acquired to sort of be their number 2 and 3 centers, both playing the wing. And I asked Marty St. Louis after the Flames game, is that how he sees him in the future? And he said, Doc, a year ago he didn't. He saw him as a center. Now he's sort of wondering, like, are they just not good enough to score goals? Knuckles, what's going on?
Well, they're not capitalizing on some of the chances they're getting. And when you look at Kirby Doc, again, coming back from the injury, and when I look back at when he first got here, and Marty put him on the wing, I thought it was a brilliant move to get him back in the swing of things, get him, not putting that pressure on him right away of playing center ice here. And he's started to come around, and when he did, started feeling better, all of a sudden, he ends up going back to center. Now, I'd like to see him back there, but again, he's got to be a more consistent player on the wing before he ever thinks of going there. And I think he's just starting to. Last night he did some okay things. I saw flashes of what we can expect from him, and just maybe if he gets to that point where he's feeling really good, you move him over to center ice.
And with Slavkovsky, are you surprised they've kept Slavkovsky off that number 1 line so long, Rick? Or?
Well, yeah, Marty St. Louis is trying to, different things to try and get his offense going. And the worst thing, you can do sometimes is just be very patient with your guys and not change things up. And, he's trying things. Slavkovsky, he's getting some chances. But in the big picture, guys aren't scoring. And I see a little difference in their play, especially in the first period against Calgary. They seem to be crashing the net a lot more and seem to be shooting a lot more, at least in the first period. But in order for you to shoot, you also have to have possession of the puck. But, they created a little more traffic. They created a little more havoc in front of the opposition net, which is a good sign. But, on the negative side is these guys got to find ways to get their scoring going, because they can't rely on Caulfield and now Gallagher with 5 goals to do it every night. And those guys feel it. They sense it. Unfortunately for Kirby Doc, you talk all you want about the plus minus. He's got the worst minus in the league. So if you're not going to score goals, then when you're on the ice, try and, take care of your defensive responsibilities. And unfortunately, he gets caught with a minus, maybe deserving or not deserving. But anyways, the overall picture is second worst in the league for goals against. Not going to do it. They have to dig in and take care of that zone first, work their way from that out. Then they're going to have opportunity, because good defense, the old cliche, makes for good offense.
We've talked before in previous shows about maybe simplifying it on defense, maybe simplify it on offense too. Doc had a play against the Flames where he had an open path to the net cutting down the wing, and he could have just fired a shot, instead tried to sort of go through his legs or whatever, fell down, lost the puck, never got a shot off. Same with the power play. They're passing it around so much. Knuckles, Joshua Roy has got 7 goals in 9 games in Laval. Is it maybe time to call him back up and see if he can provide some offense?
Yeah. I like to see him. Again, is he going to make a difference? Maybe. We'll see. Yeah, he scored 7 goals down there. It's a good sign. But, it's a little different up here. And, you give him a shot. I don't know. Who are you going to yank out? I'm sure Marty will figure that one out. But, yeah, maybe give him a shot and let him see what he can do. Can't do any worse than what's happening right now here.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it might be better sending Kapanen back to Europe. He had 7 minutes and 50 seconds of ice time against the Flames. Dvorak had 14. And, are the developing guys, that's where it's are you developing? You're not developing? If you're going to play Dvorak 14 and Kapanen 7, and you're going to call up War and play him 7. Like, Rick, how do you balance that? Like, as far as giving kids ice time and
Joshua Roy, he's making it happen in Laval. I always liked him as a skilled guy that creates opportunity. And why not bring this kid up? He's again the future, and he's showing results at the Laval hockey team. Let him try and spend some time here, with the big team, and see if he can continue his scoring ways. But these are areas that they discuss quite a bit as a staff. Okay, what's the best way moving forward to get these guys to play their A game each and every night? Everybody's different. Everybody, progresses at different rates. But one thing remains the same: is you cannot develop young kids and have them sitting and not being able to play, and that's just that's not fair to the kid. And and it's not happening with the results offensively to see them, creating something because they're not on the ice.
As far as development, I mean, look how this team is so young. A lot of times when
they got 11 guys, 23 and under.
There's so many young guys on this team that you think back in the day, right? They'd spend a couple years in the minors and then get called up and then get in. It's not that way anymore. But I don't know if there's ever been a team the last 10 years that has been this young with this many rookies in it or young guys in it. And they're all trying to develop at once. You're trying to develop, some coaches, they get a guy in, you plop them in, 1 or 2 guys, and you work with those guys, and they're winning. They're surrounded by veterans, some good players who've been around the league for a while, who know how to win. And this team, you don't have that. You have Joel Armia, 31 years old, and David Savard, and the rest of them are kids. So everybody's trying to develop together, and I don't know if he can do that. I don't. So far,
it takes minutes on the ice in different situations for them to develop. I mean, look at Slavkovsky. He was having an awful time there trying to find his way to play. And young kids, I don't care. They need opportunity. They need to be given the chance, and the chance isn't 4, 5, 6 minutes per game. And I know maybe it's not an easy scenario to have some of these kids and watch the growing pains, unfold. But if you want to get them progressing, you have to let them play in different situations, and you have to look at your future. And I think that they're analyzing each and every one of these young kids to see if the future is part of the Montreal Canadiens organization with those guys that are borderline to, okay, are we looking at future Montreal Canadian or not? And they have some work to do on their, analyzing their personnel.
Well, the first 2 years of this rebuild, it was all about development, right? They didn't even really talk. Marty said it didn't care. Wins and losses meant nothing. And now they're saying, they need to learn to win. Is it maybe Knuckles too early in this rebuild to do that? Like it's like they're juggling now, right? Trying to play veterans and trying to win and sitting kids, and it hasn't looked good.
No, listen, they don't have the horses, right? They don't have the players to win consistently. They've proven this. They're young kids, gonna take time. We get that. The 3rd year now, there should be some progress, and we're kind of spinning our wheels and maybe even going back down the hill a little bit, the way things are right now. So how do you fix that right now? How do you fix that? And you build a team through getting draft picks, trying to build that team, and you also, it's a little bit of a symphony here. You've got to be able to bring in some, experience, guys who can play, and keep your finger in the dike until those guys develop and you're able to win consistently on a nightly basis. And, you said it, Monahan was here, this one, Stahl was here, and that's great. But you need to keep some of those guys and be able to try and win some hockey games with them, and have them around these young guys and hold their hand a little bit why you get through those growing pains. And, Monahan went for, draft pick, right? And
Yeah, Michael Hayes.
there we go. And that's great, but he's not here yet. And so that costs long-term, hopefully long-term gain. It's going to hurt you in the short term. And that's what's happening right now.
And I think young or old, structure has to be in place. And these guys have to know, I don't care if they're 21, 22 years old or 32 years old. Everybody has to know what their job is with and without the puck. And until I see that happening on a consistent basis with the intensity and the real drive to, make the difference between win and losing, they're going to continue to struggle. And I don't see that type of consistent structure in how they're supposed to be playing from the red line in. And that's concerning.
Well, I mean, Red Fisher used to say, Knuckles, when the team was struggling, show me the players. When you look at the players, you can see why they're sort of having a hard time winning. I know you've been an assistant coach in the NHL, a head coach in the minors, Knuckles. If you were in the room today talking to the players, what would your message be?
Grow some balls. Yeah, you can't teach grit. You can't teach that. If you don't have it, you don't have it. And, I think if I'm coaching this team, I'm going to dumb it down for them. I'm going to dumb it down for them and play a more defensive-minded system. I don't care if they don't like it or not. This is what I want. I want a team that's going to at least play as a team. And when you devise a defensive system, whether it's a trap, it's 1-3-1, left wing lock, whichever, you got to work as units on the ice. Right now, units on the ice in their own end of the rink, to me, there looks like there's confusion. Guys aren't sure. I would try and devise one of those defensive schemes, apply it, and there'd be some growing pains there. But eventually, when guys get on the same page, if one guy breaks down in that defensive system, everything doesn't fall apart. You're still in good position to defend. And I'd make them an opportunistic team. Being able to pick pucks off in the neutral zone and go the other way and not just play run and gun hockey and let's play wide open and try and beat this team 5-4. No, that ain't going to happen. I think Marty said that recently. If they against Pittsburgh or whoever it was, I think he mentioned that, looking back, if we tried to pay more attention to the defensive side of the game, but if we played the game the way I was showing them to play, we probably would have won that game 5-4. I didn't get that one. Did you hear him? Did you hear that?
Yeah. Rick, you've been behind the Habs bench as an assistant coach. What would you be saying right now?
Well, I mean, Martin St. Louis' hands are tied. The players make it happen. But in the big picture here, I'm wondering how long it's going to take. Okay, yes, he got their attention with no pucks, skating. That's fine. Now, what's his next option for him to get his key players or certain players going? Do you put them in the stands? Do you take them out of the lineup? How do you send a message to these guys that what they're doing is not acceptable? And, skating them, but playing the next game maybe is not the right recipe. And again, as a coach, you try and push all the buttons for each guy, individually because they're all different. But it comes to a point where, push comes to shove. It's like, I'm not getting the results. I'm not getting the attention that I'd like to be getting from these guys. You're coaching these guys. You can't do much other than remove them from getting the ice time. And maybe that's a button they need to push with some of these guys to say, what you're doing, not good enough. Go sit in the stands. We're going to bring somebody else in, and they're going to go that extra mile to try and make the difference between winning and losing.
Hey,
well, it's not going to
go ahead, we saw what happened in Boston, right? Marchand and Monty, right? He sat Pasternak down for the third period the other night, pinned his ass to the bench. He wasn't getting it done. Now, that's a double-edged sword there a lot of times. You know, it can work against you. Today's athletes, they're making this much money, and it's like, you know, coaches get buried sometimes when they do that. And
long-term contracts. I'm going to be here longer than you, right?
Yeah, well,
Coach,
you know, he's on the last
Keller.
year of his contract, Monty, in Boston. So the way I look at it, he said, if they're not going to sign me, the writing's on the wall. I'm going to go down swinging. You know, screw this. If the guys ain't going to play for me, they're going to go to the bench. And Pasternak's that guy. They need that offense from him, and you know they're not getting it. So I don't know. Does Marty do that?
Coach Killer Kovalev, you know, he got Claude and I, and we know it very well. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. But listen, when it gets to the point where your information is not being received, you sometimes have to roll the dice and take a gamble and pack your suitcase.
Well, it's not going to get any easier. The Canadiens now hit the road for their next 4 games. They're in New Jersey Thursday night, Toronto Saturday night. Then they play an afternoon game in Buffalo next Monday, followed by a game next Thursday night against the Minnesota Wild.
Things do not look good.
This did not look good. Anyway, well, that's it for this week's Hockey Inside Out show. We'll be back with the new show next week. In the meantime, please make sure you like and subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. Go to montrealgazette.com/newsletters to sign up for the Hockey Inside Out newsletter. And of course, go to hockeyinsideout.com every day for all the latest Canadiens news. Also, please leave your comments on the show in the comment section below. We always like to hear from you.